Welcome to For the Love of Books, a podcast by North Lanarkshire Libraries. Hi everyone, welcome back to the North Lanarkshire Libraries podcast For the Love of Books. My name is Chris Wilson, the E-Services Librarian, and this morning I am joined with Hilary, Petrie, the Digital Learning Officer, and also the other Digital Learning Officer, Phyllis, Canavan as well. So welcome guys to the podcast. How are you guys this morning today?
Waking up now.
Fantastic.
One caffeine unit in.
It's very important to get those caffeine points in, I think.
Absolutely.
And the reason why these guys are here for today's podcast is that because during Let's Go Summer, the summer activities that we had going, our digital team, who these guys are really kind of the lead on, have been touring the libraries with some various coding and digital technology events throughout loads of our libraries, and we're going to find out a little bit more about them and how they got on with those events and stuff like that. So it was a very kind of full-packed summer for you guys, wasn't it? We got lots of stuff going on.
Yeah, we did a bit of calculating things up, and we reckon that there were 25 digital activities, and through them we saw about 190 people.
Wow, fantastic.
Across those. So it's been busy. The team's been kept on their toes. But I think even although somebody at one point did say digital assistant, nobody told me I was working with the kids. I think I've actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
and I had great fun. And that's not just the youngsters. I think that the actual team as well really did enjoy getting out and about and doing something different.
Fantastic. And there was kind of 4 main events that you guys were touring about over across for Let's Go Summer, wasn't there? We've got to kind of touch on what they were called just now, and then we'll kind of dive into them a little bit more and find out a little bit more about them.
Yeah, Phyllis, keep me right as we go. But there was virtual reality.
Yep.
There was a Code Club boot camp, which is kind of an intense introduction to coding.
For me as well as the kids, I have to add.
Yep. We did something called Interland, which we'll come back to and explain a bit more about. And the last one, well, we either called it life-size coding or human coding or something along those lines. But it was taking humans and moving them around a big grid as though they were being coded.
Fantastic. And it all sounds fantastic. And there's lots of photos of various things on our social media and stuff like that if anyone wants to go and have a wee look at what's been going on and stuff, because loads of folk did have loads of fun with it as well, so it looks fantastic. Now, you did have a little bit extra help. It wasn't just the two of you that were doing this, didn't you? There was a few other staff members that have been kind of helping out, so I think we should give a little bit of a shout out to them for the help that they've been doing.
Yeah, we have got 4 amazing digital assistants. We have Catherine, who's based in Cumbernauld, Alan based in Coatbridge, Peter over in Motherwell, and David in Wishaw, and we really mixed it up and we all did a wee bit of everything everywhere. So it was like a wee holiday for us as well.
Getting out of the office for a little bit and kind of touring
Absolutely.
some of the libraries that you don't necessarily see a lot and things like that. Fantastic. And there must have been a little bit of preparation work involved in some of these as well. Like how I mentioned there, the life-size coding one in particular, I'm thinking probably with the grid thing and stuff like that. There must be a bit of work.
Yeah, that kind of, I sat in on a webinar about STEM activities for kids a couple of years ago, and they kind of mentioned life-size coding, not in any great detail, but I started kind of looking into it then, and then COVID hit, so that was my idea out the window. So it's been kind of germinating in my brain for a couple of years, and eventually with the help of the rest of the team we were able to make it real.
Fantastic.
And create the board and some obstacles and make it a proper coding experience.
And did it live up to the dream that you had in your head from those 2 years ago?
Even better, Chris, even better than I thought it was going to be. And not only that, we actually managed to get some of the adults that thought they were there just to watch what was happening. We managed to get them involved as well.
Fantastic.
So we had mums, dads, grannies all involved in the writing up the code and actually being the computer and following through the instructions. So it was definitely an entertainment.
And I think, as Phyllis said, that we talked about the team, but actually on this one, our team got even bigger, because we have to say a huge thank you to some of the the sort of backroom staff in libraries who helped us secure all the bits and pieces that we needed for that. I'm quite sure that one member of staff in particular, Phyllis, emailed her once more, was probably going to run away from us.
Definitely. But without her,
everything.
it would not have happened. It definitely wouldn't have happened, and it's much appreciated.
Fantastic. And so let's dive a little bit more into detail of the various events and stuff like that. We'll start off with the virtual reality one, I think. What did the kids experience at that event with kind of being transported away into a virtual world?
We tried with virtual reality to stick to two main themes. So we stuck to under the sea and space.
Fantastic.
Now, we did have other things that they could have a look at, but the two apps that we used, and they're both free apps, were Sites in VR, where we were able to go to space, travel around the planets, do a wee bit of exploring on the International Space Station, and then SeaWorld as well. And the SeaWorld one was absolutely fabulous. There's no any other word that I can use to describe it. The pictures that go along with it, if anybody wants to have a look at social media, are absolutely brilliant, because there are pictures of kids sitting in chairs with these massive big goggles on, and they're trying to catch the shark that's in front of them. It was absolutely brilliant. Lots of squeals, because there is one of them that the shark takes a bite out of the shark cage.
Right.
But the person that screamed the loudest, I have to say, was a granny. So that's okay. Kids were fine. They weren't bothered at all. They were quite excited about it all.
Kids don't tend to show fear as much. So
No. But definitely the under the sea and the sound effects and everything as well, because you're hearing the bubbling going as though you've got your diving gear on, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Sounds fantastic. And now, and whenever we were talking about this before, Phyllis, you were also telling us that you don't really need a big expensive headset for these things as well.
No, you don't. One of the kits that we used, and this is where we fall back on the backroom staff, because originally the scheme was designed by Google, and it was Google Cardboard. And then Google a few years ago decided that they were going to open that up to anybody that wanted to use the headsets. Anybody could make them. They weren't going to make them anymore. And I had a very fantastic member of support staff who was able to source Google Cardboard headsets for me. So we had all the wee cutouts done and the lenses to go inside it, so that you're getting the 3D virtual reality effect. The kids were able to decorate them, put their names on them, so that nobody was going to be mistaken with whose was whose. And at the end of the day, they were able to walk away with their own headset. We were able to source them for about £5.
Fantastic. And so what was the kids' kind of reactions really to kind of being able to be transported away from North Lanarkshire to like either space or under the sea and things like that? What was the kind of real kind of experience that they kind of showed while they were doing it?
One of the comments that we got, which I have to say the North team were a wee bit excited about this. One of the comments we got for one of the kids was, "This is the best thing I've ever done." I was like, all right then, thanks very much for that. So not being bashful or anything about it, being quite happy with ourselves that we actually got something that they were excited about. They were really excited. They were really into it. We were a wee bit worried that some of them wouldn't be as into the kind of engineering element of building the Google Cardboard. But even that, they were really into how it was going to end up looking, what it was going to do for them, how it all went together, how it was going to make the experience work for them, that they're sitting at the beginning of it with all these bits of cardboard and they're waving about the lenses saying, what are these, what's it going to do? So it was probably one of the most exciting and sort of a joyful things that I've seen a group of kids doing. It was absolutely fantastic.
Just in case anyone wants to try and give it a go themselves, is there any restrictions on what kind of phones that they need for something like Google Cardboard that they can use, or can any kind of smartphone really be used?
Google Cardboard is running on pretty much all of the smartphones that we've got. So what we've done is we've taken the contracts that we've renewed. So it was sort of personal phones of staff. So it was the ones that we had sitting in a drawer just in case we needed a backup. So some of the phones that we used are about 7-8 years old.
Fantastic.
And everything was working on them without any problem.
So you don't need the latest kind of phone
You don't need the latest phone. You don't need the latest headset. You just need Google Cardboard and a wee bog standard smartphone, and that's you. Off you go.
Brilliant, fantastic. That sounds like a fantastic event. It sounds as if it was really enjoyed by everyone that went along. Now, the next one I think we'll touch on. I think Hilary, you were kind of mentioning it a little bit earlier on. We'll go to Interland. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So Interland is again something that's come out really from the Google family, and it's a gaming and craft activity that lets us look at internet safety. So if anybody listened to the podcast in the last series where we were talking about the activities that were to come up, you might remember that I had to confess that I really struggled with this one initially, and actually had to get David, one of our digital assistants, on a call with me to tell me how to actually work the games. Well, thankfully, I'm just the oldest member, one of the oldest members of the team, so I'll play that card. I don't know what I was doing.
So that's her just completely outed me as being the oldest member of the team. Thanks for that, Hilary. I'm remembering when your birthday is.
I didn't. No, Phyllis, I didn't.
She didn't mention names.
But yeah, the two of us that are that bit older than everybody else, we're maybe struggling a wee bit with some of these. But again, it's that sort of activity that we set up some computers, but on the site we let some of the youngsters come in, and they had 4 different challenges to complete as sort of computer games, whether that was running around collecting little emails, and that they had to decide whether there were scams in there or things that were trying to be hacked, or whatever else, or running up and down levels, chasing, avoiding the baddies and the bullies, and answering questions to get past them and so on. Having a great time basically with those. But we also had the craft activity where they could make the 4 different characters from each level as well. So there's 4 different be it internet legends, if you like, that they got making there. So there's a lot of cutting and gluing and sticking and
sticking to things
and oh no, what happened to that ear, kind of explanations as we went through all of that as well. So it was maybe one where we maybe didn't get quite as much take up as some of the others, but it's one that we think that we'll return to. We'll maybe describe it differently next time. But they're definitely a good way to sort of dip in. And again, it's interesting actually, in one of the locations I was out, and I think it was in Shorts, a number of the youngsters sort of said, "Oh, we've done a bit of that in school," but they were quite happy to kind of go back and have another shot at it, and get the messages back in as well. And again, where parents had stayed on as well, I think it was great for them to see how there's programs there that make internet safety fun, but drive home the message about making sure that what you're doing is safe online, and yeah, it was good fun.
It's kind of that capturing what kids like to do and pairing it with a really important message, that kind of merging the two together and kind of making it a fun experience for them to hopefully then learn the kind of real message behind it and get enjoying it. Now, am I right in thinking there was a bit of a competitive streak between some of the staff members whenever you were researching about this?
No, absolutely
whenever you're looking into it? I seem to remember some chat and going on about who was completing it fastest or something like that, or getting the highest score or something.
I think among the digital assistants there was a bit of that going on. I'll hold my hands up. I'm bottom of any league table for this.
I'm not seeing that on my right. If I was to move my camera, you can see my 5 certificates for completing all 4 levels and the overall. I'm internet awesome.
Proudly displayed. Fantastic. Was there an overall winner of the staff members who got there fastest, or do we want to kind of give the real bragging rights out to whoever got it done quickest? Do we remember?
I could take a guess, but
I could take a guess. Yeah, I'm going to say David Anderson.
Yeah, digital assistant in Wishaw, absolute gamer.
Well
and the one I called for help.
Well done, David. If it was one of our digital assistants, we apologise, and we will give you the right bragging rights in future. Well, we've got the next one, and the next one was a really quite intensive code club boot camp. I always struggle to say that, as well. And although it was a boot camp, it might not sound quite as harsh as that. It was more fun than just a kind of boot camp to kind of learn stuff. What was the kind of the main kind of thing behind the boot camp? What was happening at that session?
I'd done this a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, in Motherwell a few times, and we've run code clubs before as an after-school activity. Come along for an hour, do an activity, and maybe do a six-week block or so. And the idea behind the boot camps is basically we run 5 mornings, an hour each morning, or an hour and a bit each morning. I say morning, actually, we did it in the afternoons as well this year. I wasn't thinking about it. And basically try and do a full module of a programming language. So I think we stuck with Scratch again this year. And it's a great way of building up some skills very quickly. And what we found is, day one, everybody's kind of looking at it. If they haven't seen it before, taking a wee bit of time to find out how everything works. Usually by day 3, we can step back from it quite easily because the youngsters are in there, they know what they're doing, they're helping each other out, and working really collaboratively. And there's certainly I was involved in the one at Wishaw, and the little challenge activity at the end of each day's learning. And we had youngsters on that who hadn't done any coding before, who were producing the most brilliant little games and getting really, really into it. And it really was a case of mum sort of coming along at the end of the day going, no, it is time to go home. Honestly, we do need to go.
Dragging them out.
Dragging them back out from it. And it was great because we were then able to sort of say, look, this is what we've been using, and we know that some of the youngsters have gone on and continued to sort of work on it in their own time away from it as well. So it's just a quite sort of good way to really introduce the module quickly to people. And yeah, certainly Wishaw wise, if you're out that way, keep an eye on things. We will be running it as an after school activity in the near future. Dates and times still to be confirmed, but it is coming back to the area because it was so good there. But Phyllis, I know Cumbernaulds was just a massive success.
Yeah, we had this great idea that we would have sort of a six or seven kids in to do code club boot camp. That'd be 6 or 7 kids. That'd be okay. That'd be good. Do you think we'll get 6 or 7? Okay, we'll get 6 or 7 kids. So we had 17 kids in Cumbernauld on the first day, and the least that we had was 14, because we had a couple of days that folk were going and getting their back to school haircut and that kind of thing. So we were averaging out about sort of 14, 15 kids a day, ages ranging from sort of primary 2 through to sort of a first, second year. But it was really good. It was quite lively. It was great to see the kids helping each other. So LogintoLearn in Cumbernauld was absolutely transformed for just over an hour every afternoon, where there were kids running back and forward helping each other how to do things. I may even have relaxed the no food or drink beside the computers and let them have an ice pool because it was exceptionally hot that week. But it was really well attended, and the kids really thoroughly enjoyed themselves. And we actually managed to get a wee clip of film that I think you may have posted for us.
Yeah, you can see that on our Facebook and Twitter accounts. Yeah.
They get a completion certificate when they've worked through their module, and so we had a wee sort of mini awards ceremony and had a wee chat with them about what they liked about the experience.
Yeah, I mean that video really encapsulates itself perfectly. You can listen to us tell you how fantastic the event went, but really the kids tell you in that video exactly what they kind of loved about it and what they they discovered and what they learned and things like that sort of stuff. It's a great to hear it straight from their own mouths about how fantastic they enjoyed it, which is brilliant. And you said that the lowest that you ended up with was 14, was it?
Yeah.
So did you find that the kids did actually kind of stay the whole week and kind of come each morning most of the time?
They did, yeah. They started out at the beginning of the week working on sort of a more basic, like creating their avatar and working on their sprite, changing things about it. And by the end of the week, they were able to create their own game where they've got their boat chasing around about. And that, I think the best thing for me was watching them all, listening to Alan talking them through how to explode their boat. And they're all sitting really intently listening to what he's saying, and then within sort of a less than 5 minutes there's boats exploding all over LogintoLearn. No fish were harmed, I have to say. But there were lots of exploding boats about LogintoLearn. So yeah, it was great to see them, that they were keen to do it. They were looking forward to coming back, asking when they could come back to the library. So like Hilary, we've got our 6-week block set up, so I will get you the dates and you can get them out for me shortly.
Fantastic. Sounds brilliant. And it's always good to see kids enjoying themselves and doing something a bit kind of less traditional library sort of in their buildings, and see how they enjoy it and stuff like that. So it's great to see. I think one of the probably most unique events is what we were talking about earlier, life-size coding or human coding, as some people might know it as well. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? So obviously we've kind of hinted about a grid and stuff like that. So how did that exactly work? What was going on there?
Oh, well, we started off with this great idea that we would mark out a grid on the floor. And then when we realised how long it was going to take us to put masking tape down on the floor in every library we went to, and the fact that I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, we kind of felt that maybe wasn't quite the way to go. So we were looking at different ways of trying to make something that was transportable, that was going to be easy to use, and something as well that potentially you can do at home.
Mm-hmm.
And we came across the Noughts and Crosses kits that are made with the EVA foam tiles.
Yeah.
So we went for 2 colours of tiles. So we had black and orange, and it was basically set up like a chessboard.
Right.
So we got it down to a fine art. We were able to get all of the tiles into one wee plastic box trolley. We had our 2 bags of goodies, with our Noughts and Crosses and were obstacles, with our cones and our bean bags and whatnot in another bag. And we went from the first day we set it up, when it took us about 20 minutes to get the grid set up and marked out, to we could have it done in sort of 5 minutes. So yes, we were able to come into a library and very quickly put down the digital learning team's stamp on the floor.
Yeah, that means cause trouble and move all the shelving, because we need to build a good bit of floor space.
Did you get any kind of really funny looks off of some of the staff as just came in and kind of moved stuff about and started laying out a massive giant board game essentially in the middle of the libraries?
Yeah, we got quite a lot of funny looks. We got quite a lot of, what exactly are you doing? Or is this really work?
Yeah.
So, and yes, it absolutely is work. It's absolutely a STEM activity. There was a lot of thinking and a lot of planning went into it. But it was great fun. We certainly
did in Wishaw as well, because hold our hands up, after we had coded in Wishaw, we used that same board and played Snakes and Ladders and Connect 4 on it as well.
Absolutely.
All in the name of science.
Multi-purpose.
Absolutely. I think that was the thing, is as we were putting it down throughout the week, we were kind of thinking, do you know, we could do this. So, we could do. Do you think we could use these to do? So it was getting really, really. We were getting more carried away, I think, than the kids were. Fantastic. So yeah, I think the grid will be coming out fairly regularly. It might not always be life-size coding, but it'll always be STEM.
Yeah, I think it's good to say as well that, you know, once that grid's down and there's a kind of obstacle course through it, if you like. So what the youngsters were tasked with was to go from a green start cone to the red finish cone. and they could only move one space at a time, unless they were told they could move multiple places, but they had to do exactly what they were told to do. So in some instances, we started off, certainly in South, we maybe started off with somebody on the grid to explain it. And so we would give them a set of instructions to kind of move in. People would get to see that, shift a few things around, take everybody off the grid, and get them to kind of work out that code of how to get from green to red and write it down. And then it was a case of debugging it. So put a human back onto your grid and read your code back to them, and they could only do exactly as they were told.
Yeah.
And actually, people found that really, really difficult, because you knew that you wanted to turn when you got to a certain obstacle, but unless you were told to do that, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good experience for both those who were writing the code and getting it tested, and those who were actually trying to follow instructions step by step and only what they were told to do as well.
It's great as well, the number of times, and it happened in every location I think that we did it in, the number of times you heard, no, your other left, or your other right.
It's one of those things that a lot of people struggle with sometimes.
We were just, everybody was getting so carried away with what you were doing, and as Hilary says, you know what way you want to turn, and then somebody's shouting instructions at you, and you just total overload, totally excited, turning the wrong way. Yes, I was probably the person that was turning the wrong way the most, but there you go.
I was going to say, I know in a couple of places we learned that I was days old when I learned that if I take my left hand and make an L and use my thumb and my first finger, I can make an L, and that's a left hand. And that was just the adults.
Fantastic. Now, you were talking about kind of springing the inspiration to your mind. It actually kind of makes me think a little bit back to something that Hilary and I done a long time ago now.
Yeah.
Of the book cover Sudoku, and that whole kind of like grid thing could work perfectly for that as something that any library wanting to kind of throw out a kind of quick activity could get some of those tiles, get some massive book covers and play book Sudoku. That was a fantastic time back then. Hilary played that, and a lot of work, much more difficult than putting those tiles together to put together that board, I have to say. But yeah, that's fantastic. So there's another possibility you could do with that grid, is have a massive book Sudoku board. So there you go. Fantastic. Now, Phyllis, you kind of mentioned the inspiration behind that really kind of came out of the webinar that you saw a long time ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. Uh-huh. We'd had a code club running in Cumbernauld, and a parent had asked me if we had anything that was suitable for a 4-year-old.
Yeah.
And I said, not at the moment, but leave it with me. Unfortunately, because of COVID, the 4-year-old's now about 7 or 8. But it did inspire me to go looking to see what I could find. So I came across a STEM webinar where it was talking about different activities, and particularly activities that could be done out in the community, and came across the whole life-size coding idea. And again, they had put it down with masking tape on the floor, and I thought that looks really good. But then the practicalities of somebody like me who was able to glue themselves to their wee craft activity when they were doing Interland, actually putting the masking tape down on the floor every day, and this is just going to be an absolute nightmare. I'm going to end up like a mummy. So we then started looking at different ways of doing it, and looking to see what other people were doing, see how much uptake there had been after that webinar, to see what other folk had been doing with it, how they had been managing it. And the tiles just kept coming. Hilary and I spent about an hour and a half one night looking through various different things and different sort of obstacle kits and things, trying to work out how we were going to do it. And the one that we kept coming back to was the foam tiles, because so many people have got them now.
Yeah.
I mean, when my kids were wee, we had them down so that if they were falling about when they were playing, they were going to be slightly less injured than if they fell directly on the floor. So they were a great idea, and the fact that it came as the part of the noughts and crosses, so we were getting the noughts and crosses game as well, but we were also getting some bits and pieces that we were going to be able to use as obstacles and to mark off parts of the grid that this is an area that you can't go to, so that we were able to kind of direct them through to sort of force them to make choices, like you have to go left, you have to go right, to actually make sure they were creating a good code.
It kind of let us evolve it as the sessions went on as well, because I know we certainly got to the point where maybe started with just the X's on the grid, so you can't go to that square. But by the end of a session, we often had 4 different coloured cones out around the grid and the hoops on the grid, and so you had to not just navigate not hitting the X's, but you actually had to go and get each hoop and then turn to be able to throw it over the cone as well, and you got extra points for that if you could do that as well. So.
Can I just point out here that David and Peter both have an unfair advantage when it comes to throwing hoops at cones, because they barely even had to bend their knees to get it to go over the cone. Hilary and I, being slightly height challenged, had a wee bit more difficulty trying to get the hoops to go over the cones, but you definitely want to be in one of their teams if you're looking for points.
Fantastic. Now, it's all the events sound as if they were fantastic. Now, what was kind of overall feedback you got from the events generally? Was it quite well received from everyone that kind of really took part?
I think certainly any event I was at, everybody was just raving about it at the end. They had such a good time. So I had a lot of really good verbal feedback from people, both the youngsters and from the parents. But I know, Phyllis, you actually got some written feedback as well.
We did. We've been posting things on Twitter and various different social media, and we had a few comments back that way. And then at the end, particularly of our Code Club boot camp, I'm having the same problem as you, Chris. It's almost like I've got somebody else's teeth and tongue in when I'm trying to say that.
It's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it?
It really is, isn't it? So at the end of the Code Club boot camp, which was our final activity in Cumbernauld, so some of the kids had been at all of the activities that we had done. So we got some thank you cards. And one of our cards was thanking us for how much the person's granddaughters had enjoyed the events that they attended, and they had been at a few events and the girls had a great time. And another one was a big thank you from, and I'm going to embarrass her now, and I'm going to say a big thank you from Charlotte for being at Code Club Boot Camp and also for being at VR. And Charlotte was one of the kids who was a great help at the Code Club Boot Camp, along with Caleb and Anthony and Christo, because they were dotting about and helping other kids. Tommy was great. He was showing off his skills and making sure that everybody was saving their stuff so that we were able to go back in and make changes to things the next day. So to actually get thank you cards from them was absolutely fantastic. And in compensation for all of the ice poles and ice lollies that I gave out that week, we even got a bar of chocolate each.
And I'm sure that you've still got some of that chocolate left, I'm sure, Phyllis.
Of course we have. Well, maybe like a wee corner of the wrapper or something at the bottom of the bin.
That's fantastic. I mean, getting feedback from the kids and stuff like that is great, but when getting even in a kind of thank you card thing that makes it even a little bit more special. And us librarians and the library staff are a bit sentimental. I mean, we do genuinely keep these things for a long, long time, and
absolutely
become very precious to us.
I will absolutely admit to them being pinned up on the wall.
Yeah.
They are now trophies.
On those difficult days where everything's not quite going right for you, they give you a little bit of a kind of helping hand to get through the rest of the day. Whenever you see all the hard work is worth it in the end, so it's great to have that, and it's fantastic. The kids kind of enjoyed it so much to kind of give that kind of feedback to us. So, what's on the horizon then for coding in North Lanarkshire libraries? Is we've kind of mentioned that Wishaw and Cumbernauld have kind of got boot camps coming up and things like that again. So that's kind of on the horizon. So it's a kind of watch this space and for dates and things like that for those.
watch this space for dates. We've got a couple of 6-week sessions set up in the Cumbernauld area. So we'll do a 6-week session in Cumbernauld and then a 6-week session in Kilsyth. And then after Christmas, we'll do another 2 6-week sessions. Dates and times to be decided. But yeah, we'll get that done. We're hoping as well to get the life-size coding kit back out maybe around about the October week and see if we can get some more interest in it then. I know, and Hilary's probably going to batter me now for saying that. She was like, oh God, I thought we were going to get a break for that for 5 minutes.
It's finally back in our set here is finally back in the library rather than lying in my living room where I was really tempted at one point to take it out, set it up and play with it. South area wise, yeah, we're going to run a code club after school in Wishaw. Still waiting just to confirm some dates when we look at some staffing around that, and we will get another couple set up as well, but we're just at the point where we're still just trying to confirm where and when we can actually do it. So yeah, it's coming. It's a great event, and you know we have the options. Yes, we've been talking about doing Scratch, but we can extend it into working with some harder languages like Python as we go as well. So we'll see how it runs out. Just keep watching your local library to see if it appears.
Good stuff. And normally this is a book focused podcast. So I thought we kind of maybe end it with seeing if anyone's looking into basic coding and stuff like that. Is there any recommended books or websites or anything like that folk can have a look at to kind of see maybe kind of get the basics from and kind of start their own learning before coming along to boot camp or something like that sort of stuff, and kind of showing off the skills that they've learned before they come along?
Chris, I can do you a good
Even
one here.
better. She's going to steal the one I was going to say.
I can actually plug Libby, one of our e-magazine apps, because on there are a number of coding based magazines, and one of them in particular is called Coding for Kids Scratch. And this was David, actually, who's digital assistant out in Wishaw, found this just at the beginning of our week. And I have to say, this has led to some of the most competition I have seen all summer, as some of the activities in there have been worked through by our digital assistants, and they become very competitive against one another when it comes to this. So, yeah, that's available on Libby. And I know that in a number of the branches there are various titles in the children's non-fiction sections, which include sort of coding adventures and so on as well. And for any adults, there's usually some introductory coding, although it tends to be less fun in the non-fiction sections there. So yeah, I do want to give it a shot. Do that. Website wise, one of my favourites when we're not doing Code Club is a site called Hour of Code. And there's a whole lot of things on there. And what's really, really good about that one is that actually a lot of sort of franchises have allowed their characters to be used. So you can go and code Elsa in Frozen scenarios. And that's the one that kind of springs to mind. But there are, I think there's sort of Minecraft stuff on there. There's, I want to say Mario appears as well, but I kind of can't remember. I'm days away from this now. I'm trying to block it out.
Phyllis, is there anything that you want to add to that, or has Hilary covered all the best ones?
Hilary's covered the best ones. Hour of Code's definitely is a good one to go to. The non-fiction stuff that we've got in the kids library, and as Hilary says, the adult stuff tends to be just that wee shade more boring. So do not be embarrassed about taking the kids' books out. You may well find that if you're in Cumbernauld or Coatbridge that you have to ask for a member of the digital team because we may have borrowed the books. So yeah, I definitely recommend the kids non-fiction coding books. They're really good. They're interesting activities, interesting projects to do, and it's just quite nice at the end of the day to see your wee sprite bouncing along the screen, or as I think it was Abigail was wont to do, exploding a dog. So everybody's got a trademark. We had dogs exploding in space for a couple of sessions. So
Why not?
Absolutely, everybody's got a trademark.
If you can code it, why not do it?
If you can code it, you can do it.
Fantastic. Guys, it sounds as if you've had lots and lots of fun throughout summer with these events, and it sounds, more importantly, that all the kids that came along have had equally as much fun, which is brilliant. Thank you for joining me today and coming along and chatting about it. I think that we may try and change the cover of this podcast to For the Love of Coding rather than For the Love of Books, because it's been a great chance talking about all the fun coding and the digital learning that's been going on throughout the summer. So it's been a fantastic time. So thank you very much for coming along to do that with me.
Thanks for having us.
You are more than welcome. And just to kind of round up everything, I'll give a few updates, if you like, on a few things. BorrowBox has got its always available titles this month as usual, and it features North Lancashire's very own Graham Armstrong with the young team. So that is definitely a book worth checking out if you want to see that. Read that, and you can also listen to it as well. There's the e-audiobook on there too for that as well. Hilary mentioned earlier on Libby, our e-magazine service. It does also have e-newspapers from Press Reader on there too, which can save an absolute fortune if you buy a daily paper. You can get them for free on Press Reader via Libby as well. All you need is your library card number and your library password. Download the app and you can get straight in there and access those as well. And we have taken our first little footsteps into the world of TikTok as well. So do visit TikTok and follow us at LibrariesNL if you want to kind of get us on your For You page and find out little bits of library information while you're using TikTok, if that's your thing. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, don't forget you can leave us some feedback by using hashtag FLB podcast on Twitter or by using the email librarypodcast@northland.gov.uk. But that's all for us today, guys. We have got more podcasts planned for future, so do go listen out for them or watch out for them. And thanks for listening. Bye, guys.